This is my second attempt at 20.2. My first one is on the left hand side, the second one is on the right hand side. So overall, my intention obviously was to improve my score from my first attempt. On my first attempt I got 551 reps, or 16 rounds and 3 toes to bar. I felt that I was capable of getting about 18 rounds after doing it the first time. I need to change up a few things, which I did. So as you can see on the right hand side there, my setup is different compared to the one on the left. So I have my dumbbells a little bit closer to the toes to bar and have my rope in front of the toes to bar. So other than the setup, I wanted to change a few things how I go into my thrusters. So if you notice on the right hand side, I had the dumbbells on the outside of my legs. On the right hand side I have the dumbbells on the inside of my legs. I found that overall to be a much more comfortable and better position for me to get straight into the bottom of the thruster and drive up out of it. So I was quite happy with that change. No wasted movement or energy on that. Also, how I lay my rope and how I approach my rope each time. So as on the left hand side, especially towards the later rounds, I sort of fumble around with the rope a little bit. Spend up a little bit too much time, I thought, just mucking around with it. So on the second attempt, I was just placing it wherever, and then when I approach it again, I come from a different side. That way I don't have to muck around with it. So as you can see there, my bringing those dumbbells right up to the shoulders in the bottom of the squat, rather than bring them all the way up onto the shoulders and then squatting down. I found that to be fairly comfortable there. So again, on these first few rounds, I definitely wanted to slow it down, because I found on my first attempt, going into about round, I think it was 8, that's when I really started to, try and catch my breath, and felt like I was right on that red line. Whereas going into the second attempt, I wanted to try to extend that as far out as possible. I was hoping to get into like the 12th round before that sort of started to hit. But we'll see how I did there. So that was on the right hand side, completing 3 rounds. Also, on those first couple rounds, added in a slight rest, again just to keep that heart rate nice and low, keep it manageable, because I didn't want to feel like I was redlining from around round 5. So I was deliberately taking breaks. Where I was on the first round, I was just going as hard and as fast as I could. Well, not as hard as I could, but within reason, I was pushing pretty hard. So on the second attempt, I was feeling a little bit fatigued going into it. I was trying to mentally fight it off, say, no, you're fine, just keep moving. But definitely there was a bit of fatigue there from the Friday session. So my first attempt I did on Friday afternoon, and my second was Monday morning. Although I didn't pull up sore, but there was definitely fatigue there. So I was sort of trying to mentally fight that off as well, which you'll see in the later rounds. I was really trying to fight it off pretty hard. So again, just going nice and smooth from the toes to bar into those double unders, alternating which way I was facing, just depending on which way I put the rope down, and again messing up the double unders. Overall, I felt the double unders were a lot better in my first attempt than the second. Due to the fatigue, my legs did feel a little bit heavy. I didn't train between doing Friday and Monday, where I planned on just doing some light recovery sessions, but didn't get around to doing it. So definitely will be learning from that mistake. Just got to keep moving. I had a few family events on over the weekend, so I wasn't able to do exactly what I wanted to do, but that's fine. Gotta do those things. So again, on the right hand side, the toes to bar looking pretty smooth. On the left hand side, double unders, they look a little bit more fluent, a little bit easier than on the right hand side. Still look alright, but just, I know I felt a little bit different doing them the second time around. Alright, so that was my 6th round on the right there. So I'm about 4 reps ahead on the left. So again, overall, the dumbbells probably were the most comfortable, but towards the last 5-6 minutes, all the movements became uncomfortable just because of the higher heart rate. Sort of changing positions on the rope there, so alternating between facing different ways. So on the left hand side, on my first attempt, you can see I'm definitely breathing a lot heavier than I am on the right. So on the left hand side is where I start to really slow down. It starts catching up, whereas on the right hand side, still moving fairly comfortably. Heart rate's definitely a lot lower there, and I felt that during the actual workout as well. First chalk up on the right hand side there. Again, last time I said generally when I chalk up it's due to just wanting a rest. Actually, this time my hands were a little bit more sweaty than they usually were for some reason, so that wasn't due to wanting rest, that was actually needing to get the moisture off my hands. So with the double unders, on the first attempt I only tripped up 3 times. Going around the second time, I think I did 4 or 5 trip ups overall. Which isn't terrible. I didn't lose much time. It's just something I don't want to be doing. I want to be able to, do them nice and smooth, nice and fast. Leading up to the Open, I had been doing some work on doing sort of max sets with a high heart rate with the double unders, just because at one point they got really sloppy, and I was really struggling to keep my double unders with that higher heart rate. So on the left there, you'll see I took a quick break around that sort of 11:30 mark there. Haven't yet to sort of break on the right hand side there, which tells me that pacing was a lot better. I think it wasn't until, you'll probably see it coming up in a few minutes, I think it was about the 9 or 8 minute mark where I took my first break on the second attempt. Although having said that, I'd stuff up my double unders a lot more, so count that as a break, I guess. So you can see on the left I'm struggling moving kettlebells, doing anything to give me that little extra rest. And on the right, again, nice smooth transitions. So a small break there, just to take a look at the clock, and then into those thrusters. Yeah, for some reason my hands were a little bit sweatier than usual. I don't know if it was just because I was a little bit milder sort of day, or morning I should say, a little bit humid maybe. Yep, so it's a sort of second sort of break or bigger break on the right hand side there. So with 9 minutes to go. So again, pacing wise it was a lot better, but due to that fatigue that I was mentioned before, I was definitely this is where I started to sort of get that mental talk of, oh, you know, why are you doing this again? You're not going to beat your score. So I was trying to fight that off as well, which, as some of you might know, is quite difficult to do. Just try and push through it. So another short break here. So up until this point, I was pretty happy with transitions and rest times and stuff like that. I think this is where I sort of start to really slow down a little bit. It starts to get a little bit more grindy than I wanted. But it's definitely interesting to see sort of the rest times compared to the first time. I know on the first time I was taking a lot longer breaks, so I was using a couple different techniques, like just counting breaths to sort of count 3 breaths and then try and jump straight back onto on the second attempt it was the toaster bar that I was sort of taking my rest on, and apparently the double unders as well. So yeah, definitely a lot more fatigue. You can see the sort of the arms are coming up a little bit higher on those double unders. A little bit slower to react on the bouncing of the double unders. There's a good indication there of the transitions between the first and second attempt. So it was a faster transition, shorter rest, even though I was breathing hard. Picked up the dumbbells a lot earlier. So happier with that, much happier. Means I've learnt from what I did the first time, was able to execute a lot better, which is definitely something that I want to see when doing a second attempt. The good old hands on the knees, straight into the toes there. Is this where I break up? Yep, so I'm also breaking up on the left hand side, so on my first attempt there. So we've got just over 7 minutes to go. So this is sort of the go time. You got to just keep pushing hard. I did start to fall off my pace quite a bit on the second attempt around this time. The breaks slightly longer. Double unders got a little bit sloppy. A little bit slow on that transition as well. Let's see how long I rest. Oh, do I pick them straight up? Nope, don't pick them up. Yeah, so it's quite a lengthy rest there. So 15-second rest. Another rest on the before the toaster bar. So at this point, still the toaster bar still feel okay. Again, definitely not feeling fresh, but still manageable. I was able to keep the 3 and 3 the whole way through. Just a spoiler alert there, but yeah, definitely fatigue through the midline, sort of the hip flex, the lower abdomen, and at this point here the legs felt heavy. I felt like I couldn't jump the required height for the double unders, or had to put a little bit more effort into it. Another trip up there. So I probably had, what, 4 or 5 more trip ups on the double unders compared to the first time. So this is where the sort of the mental talk starts to come in, just telling myself to just keep moving, keep picking it up, focus on the reps rather than the whole workout. I find that strategy helps me in particular deal with this type of workouts where it's an AMRAP or you got like lots of reps to get through. Just focus on the ones that are in front of you, so whether it's the 4 thrusters, and then focus on the 6 toes to bar, or was breaking it up so it was 3 and 3. So even though I'm struggling pretty hard on the second attempt, quite happy with that short rest, but I think I'm resting on all 3 of the movements. So resting just before the double unders, resting just before the thrusters, and resting sort of twice on the toes to bar, which is a little bit slower, but at that point that's what I had to do. So the last 3.5 minutes. So again, resting a little bit longer. But getting into it. One thing I try and not do is sort of move the equipment around. I find it just sort of wastes a lot of time. So wherever it's sitting, I try and pick it straight up. Whereas on the first attempt, I was definitely moving the dumbbells around a lot, getting him in the right position, which again indicates to me that on my second attempt was a lot more efficient. So toes to bar looking pretty much the same. They definitely felt a lot harder. Doesn't look like too much of them struggling there, but definitely noticed that fatigue there. Another trip up. So around that 2 minutes, I wanted to sort of try and push as hard as I could with what I had left. Now, obviously, when you're planning workouts and stuff like that, you're never really going to know exactly how you feel. I told my judge to let me know when the 2 minute time was up, just because I wanted to push the pace, and as you can see, I'm just resting there. So as much as I wanted to push, I was pretty spent at this point, fighting my inner voice telling me that you might as well stop, you're not going to beat your time and all that type of stuff. Was trying to overcome that whilst fighting off fatigue as well, so trying to fight 2 battles at once, which is always difficult, but managed to push through it, sort of quieten down that voice, and just kept moving. So I think on my left hand side, that's where I do 3 sets of 2. Yeah, and on the right, still getting the 3 and 3. So I'm ahead on my second attempt. So that's round 16 completed on the right. Four thrusters completed on the second attempt, going into my 4 thrusters on the right on the 16th. 3 toes to bar. 4 thrusters done. And 1 double under, and 3 toes to bar. Alright, so overall I was actually 4 reps ahead of what I did. I'm still capable, I think I'm capable of a little bit more, but overall pretty pleased with my effort. Till next WOD.